Happy Monday, Rotarians and guests. Glad to have you here today. You'll see the traffic is settling down a little bit. We're getting rid of some of our orange barrels, so the summer progresses. Today we're going to be hearing from our own Judy Leb, about the Lucas County Juvenile Court system, along with Demecia Wilson. But before we get to that, I'm going to invite Pat Sheehan come up to give our reflection, followed by Lauren Smith, who's going to lead us in the pledge.
Let's bow our heads and pray. Dear God, thank you for this beautiful June day in Toledo and all its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may live out our responsibility to Rotary and our community. Thank you for bringing Judy and Demecia to us today. We look forward to their message and thank them for their efforts as they seek to improve the lives of your children, specifically Toledo youth and their families. Bless our fellowship today and bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies. In your service, amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pat and Lauren. And thank you to our sponsor this month, which happens to be 2 Scale. For anybody that is interested in being a sponsor, please contact the office. We're very happy to say that we had sponsorship for every single month this past year, and I know we're looking forward to continuing that into the new year. Mark, would you come introduce our visiting Rotarian?
Yes, President Sharon, we have Perrysburg Rotarian as a visitor today, Tom Mackin. If we could welcome Tom.
Tom, glad to have you today. So if you have a guest, would you mind bringing your guests to the floor mic and introducing them, please?
Hi. I'd like to introduce my neighbor and a financial officer for Marco's Pizza and a future member of the club, Jim Boswell.
Jim, welcome.
I have with me today 2 new Toledoans who have moved here from Chicago, so help me welcome them to the city as well as to our club. Angelo Hernandez Martinez is a furniture designer with Sodders Furniture, and Zach Brook is a journalist who is seeking new opportunities.
Welcome, Angelo and Zach.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's actually a little disingenuous for me to introduce my daughter because she knows more people in the room than I do at this point, but my guest today is Bryn Tangeman.
Bryn, glad to have you.
President Sharon, please join me in welcoming John Havrillo, who I work with at the Manikin Smith Group.
John, glad to have you today.
President Sharon, I'm pleased to introduce Ryan Whitman, again, a prospective member. He's a principal at Raymond.
Ryan, glad to have you today. Thank you to our members who bring guests and share the gift of Rotary. And also, Judy.
Demecia and I brought 2 guests with us today. Seated at the front table are Judge Denise Navarre-Cubbin, the administrative judge for the Juvenile Court, and the court's administrator, Saeed Ora.
Thank you to our esteemed guest for being with us today. This is a great time to check into your social media and let everybody know you're attending the Rotary Club of Toledo our weekly Monday meeting. And once you've done that, please silence your phones, check out, give yourselves the gift of Rotary for an hour. We've done a lot in the last year, and you'll be hearing a little more about that in the next coming weeks. I know that next week will be my last week at the mic, because the following week Actually, your executive team is going to be at Rotary International, and we're going to welcome back past President Stacy Hammer to the mic for the last week of the month. But one of the things that we strive to do this year was certainly bring the awareness to the community about our mission at Rotary. And to do that, we had a special video made, not just for our transformational project, but to showcase in the community about the good things that Rotary International and our Rotary Club of Toledo does. And I'd like to take a few minutes, and we're going to play through that.
It was the summit of Toledo's industrial might, the gilded age of our 20th century glory. Edward Drummond Libby had pioneered continuous flow sheet glass. Michael J. Owens had developed a glass bottle machine. Cars were rolling off a North Toledo assembly line where Jeeps would soon be cranked out by the millions. It was 1912. Willys, Ford, Owens, Libby, Stranahan, Doler, and DeVilbiss were household names. Toledo Rotary was founded that year, and Toledo Rotarians would establish a legacy of our own.
The growth of Toledo and the growth of this club would never be separated, as Toledo Rotarians would always play a major role in the leadership and development of this great city of Toledo.
And as we seek our transformational impact projects of Century 21, our 20th century living legacies deserve mention.
The overall purpose and mission, I can say Rotary was far-reaching under the leadership of Charles Fieldbach, who was the board president of Toledo Public Schools at the same time a Rotarian, and truly putting the community before itself and recognizing that special needs students needed to get an education just as anyone else.
It started with a boy named Alva Bunker, born in 1901 without legs and hands. His story was brought to the fledgling Toledo Rotary, and in 1916, they sent him to Detroit for specialized corrective surgery because no such facility was available here in Toledo. This would change. Shortly after, Emma Roberts and the District Nurse Association called upon Rotary President Charles Fieldbach for help in starting a school for disabled children. Remember, he was the school board president. Together with Superintendent William Gatteau and Nurse Roberts, Fieldbach would establish the Crippled Children's School. Following his death in 1924, it was renamed the Charles Fieldbach School.
And this boy, who did not know how to smile, who could hardly talk, came back to Rotary 3 years later and walked into the Rotary Club and climbed the steps to the podium and thanked the Rotarians for what they had done for him. And it brings a tear to my eye to this day when I tell that story.
Alva Bunker did all right for himself. He finished school and became the assistant superintendent of a school for children with disabilities in Port Huron. The rest is living history. As the future Glendale Fieldbach Elementary School was taking shape, another Toledo Rotary initiative was underway, and its legacy also lives to this day.
Well, what I say is that we change lives every day.
Elyria, Ohio businessman Edgar Allen lost his son to a streetcar accident in 1907, all because there was just no hospital nearby. He devoted himself to building one, and within a year, Elyria Memorial Hospital would open. As hospital treasurer, Allen walked the halls every day. Befriending a boy with polio, he became curious and discovered that over 200 children in Lorain County were disabled and receiving no care. He went on to fundraise and build the Gates Hospital, which specialized in caring for the disabled children of Lorain County. It opened in 1915, adjacent to Elyria Hospital. Edgar Allen started Elyria Rotary in 1918, and he took his cause statewide. By this time, Toledo's club president Fieldbach was passionately committed to the fight for disabled children. At a 1919 meeting of Rotaries, several clubs came together to form the Ohio Society for Crippled Children. The Toledo Society for Crippled Children was established as a member in 1920. Needs change over time, and so did the Society's mission, eventually becoming a kindergarten for children with disabilities, operating in Toledo's Old West End.
Yep, I'm the first one of the Libby Manson. I was one of the first classes to be offered preschool at that building. And then the kids that graduated from there went on to Fieldbot School.
In 1974, the Society refined its mission to the charitable care of crippled or otherwise physically handicapped children and adults. They renamed themselves the Toledo Society for the Handicapped. In 1989, it was renamed the Ability Center of Greater Toledo.
Rotary has been part of the Ability Center since our inception. So whether it's putting a student through a curriculum where they have higher hopes for what they can do as adults, or whether it's moving someone out of a nursing home, we try to offer really high-impact services.
Which brings us to our second century of service above self. On May 3rd, 2012, 100 years since our inception, the Rotary Club of Toledo presented our single largest contribution in club history to Metro Parks Toledo, benefiting the construction of Middle Grounds Metro Park. The search for our first transformative project of the 21st century was rigorous.
The first criteria that was developed, it had to meet an unmet need in the community. It had to serve that unmet need. It had to be sustainable beyond our centennial year. It had to improve the quality of life for all the citizens of Northwest Ohio. And then it needed to leverage the resources and the talents of the Rotary Club of Toledo.
Metro Parks Toledo was the perfect partner, and the first downtown Metro Park was the perfect transformative project to celebrate our first century of service. If the story of human progress is captured by the sheer perseverance of mankind, Rotary International, its regions and local chapters, need an entire volume. Toledo Rotary's next transformational project will fill another chapter or two, but the first one was written for disabled children, spoken for by one boy, with no legs, no hands, but one indomitable spirit.
And that single movement for this young man became the main thrust of every Rotary Club in the world, of which there's some 32,000 to this day. Their main thrust was to serve the handicapped, particularly children. And it all started with one crippled boy here in Toledo. I think that's just incredible.
Folks, what a great video. Certainly as a club, we are humbled for the part that we have played in the history of the city of Toledo and our service to the handicapped. But we're also proud to be an ongoing part of what's going on in the city. And so I wanted to report to you today that we got the final results for our fundraising through our It's a Cabaret for this year. So before I get to that, I do want to say thank you to everybody who participated in the making of that video, who participated in the great event that we had, who participated in all the marketing, all the hours, everything that you did as a club, and to each and every one of you who have participated in making this such a great club, we thank you. So It's a Cabaret it's a success. I want to report to you today that when all was said and done, we raised $88,300 towards your transformational project. It's certainly indicative of the trust that people put in the role that we play as Rotarians in the community. Since to the date, we do not know exactly what that project is going to be. However, as you know, we've had some conversations. Everything that you shared in those conversations will be going to the executive committee, and actually when we meet tomorrow, we'll be talking about what the next steps are, and we'll report back to you on that. But one of the statistics that we tried really hard to achieve with this particular event was to increase the participation at our club level. So typically, the participation runs somewhere about 25% of the members that have been coming to our ITSA, whatever it was over the years, has been about 25%. I am so proud to tell you today that you as a club increased that number to 37%. And I know it'll only get better year after year, so thank you very, very much for all your support. More to come on that. At this time, I'm going to bring Kathy Tate up. She's got some information for you.
Thank you. Hi, fellow Rotarians. I've got a couple notes and points I want to make. I have the clicker. I forget how to use it. That's all right. I'll get there. So, one, I had mentioned before when I was here that I was going to send out dues invoices. So on Friday, it was just a day. And all I can say is some of you may have gotten invoices, some of you may have gotten 3 invoices, some of you may have gotten 1 invoice. So forgive me that it kept saying QuickBooks shut down. And then I'd go back in and try to right the wrong, and I don't know what happened. But I'm not finished yet, so throughout this week, if you do, it means there's still a glitch in the system. I don't know how to fix the glitch, but I wanted you to know that it is forthcoming, and apologize for those who got 3. I only got a couple of phone calls. The other, I had mentioned also the committee selection form, and Walt, well, there's the invoice. I just don't remember. Okay, so wait, I'm not ready for that. Sorry. I just wanted to point out the committee selection forms. There's hard copies out at Emily's table, but you can also now submit online. And it's very important, if you would please, to complete a new committee selection form. There's no automatic rollover. If you're not sure what committee you want to join, just come to a meeting. Check it out. If you sign up for a committee and you decide, this really isn't a good fit for me, don't hesitate to let us know. We can change that at any time. I would just encourage you to be part of a committee. It will just keep you more involved, and I know so many of you are already highly engaged and just stepping right up, and I'll mention that in a minute. This week, if you would want to join us, there is a marketing committee meeting Wednesday morning at 7:30 at Cafe Marie on Secor at Central. And even if you're not part of that marketing process and you want to be part of the communication process for your club, just join us. You can show up, check it out, see what it's like. Additionally, on Thursday morning, there is a semi-annual club assembly. Now, that is typically it's a club assembly where current leadership and future leadership is invited. But if that's something that you as a member would like to just come and see what it's all about, it's 7:30 Thursday morning, and that's at Parkway Place where we had the cabaret, but it's in the back room called the Mount Vernon Room. So I just wanted to mention both of those. And lastly, again, I had also mentioned, hopefully everyone has a roster, although someone told me last week they never received a printed roster. Emily has those. You can receive one. And then all of that information is compiled from your personal information that's in our database. If there's something you don't want us to print, we won't, but it's a very helpful tool for everyone. So those are my updates, and now it is my pleasure to introduce Rotarian Mike Noble. And Mike is someone that I've just recently come to know in the last year because he's been a member of our club for the last year. He's already highly engaged. He just led the Mesa bike ride. He's with Morgan Stanley, so he's a financial advisor, but he's just a great young professional, as so many of you are. I'm just delighted at the energy that the club has, and President Sharon mentioned that. And I also wanted to mention that I encouraged him that he's a vegan. So I'm semi-vegan. That means I eat salmon and things like that, chicken too. But I said, you really ought to have a fellowship at your home and invite many of our members so we could all learn how to cook a vegan meal. I can see others out there that should have something also, but I won't mention any names. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Noble, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So the whole vegan thing, I'm going to do a separate presentation on that one day, but for today, I'm here to talk to you about the Mesa Bike Tour. We, as the Toledo Club, hosted a kickoff event there that was known as the Toledo Bonus Ride. So this is the first year that we had the kickoff. It was in Middle Grounds Park. It was on a Thursday, and we hosted a breakfast, and we had a really great turnout and a lot of fun. So as you may know, the Bike Tour is the biggest annual fundraiser for Mesa. And Mesa, for those that don't know, it's an international service project that's supported through our district. It stands for Medical Equipment Supplies Abroad. And so we got some really great photos from the day that are just going to be playing in the background. So, all right, so the Toledo Bonus Ride. Well, it was created, it was new this year. It was created really as a way to get the Toledo Club involved. And what the bike tour has really been all about historically is connecting the different clubs from throughout the district. And so what it's really known for is for each club hosting the district along the way. And that's what we had the opportunity to do here. And so I really have a lot of thank yous, and also I want to deliver some results. So we raised about $7,500 from the individual riders who came out to support us that day. So thank you so much to everybody who came out to ride. It was really a great bonus for the tour. But I really want to look to measure this in ways other than just the monetary result. We had about 15 clubs come to Middle Grounds to engage with the Toledo Club that day. And we hosted them at the Rotary Roundhouse Pavilion that the Toledo Club helped build as part of a past transformational project. We had 65 riders come out, including our handlebar riders, who I know had a lot of fun that day. And we had roughly 80 people in the pavilion that morning for both for the breakfast and then throughout the day later for lunch. We had a 7.5-mile loop that was really cool. It was along the river. And you got to earn one raffle ticket each time you completed a loop. We had roughly 100 loops completed between our 65 riders, or 750 miles were ridden that day. So, what I really want to do is say thank you to the people that helped put this together and helped make this a success. So the original committee that we formed, it was me, Laura DiNardo, Dennis Sawan, and Ford Bennett. And it was really just us getting together and having a beer and trying to figure out how we were going to make this thing happen. Laura ran with the entire raffle operation, and she really just did a great job. You'll see a photo here that's got the whiteboard where we're thanking all the raffle donators who came together. Dennis Sawan was an integral part of the success, and I couldn't have done it without him. He helped craft the downtown route with me and created a really cool Mesa Bike Tour logo that you'll see what the riders have on here. Ford, I can't thank Ford enough. He said he was happy to help in any way he could. Well, he didn't know that was going to entail meeting me at 4 a.m. to set up a Summit Street lane closure. We did it. The 4 a.m. crew, Ford and his father, pulling a trailer with 40 17-foot barricades that were donated to us by Rudolph Libby. Thank you so much, Rudolph Libby. Kevin Mullen, what an asset to the Toledo Club. This man heard what we were doing and said, "Let me help." I didn't even have to ask. He was there at 4 a.m. Paul Smith of Reynolds Corner. He was my guardian angel throughout this whole operation. He was there to help, and he was there that morning. So then we really had other members of the committee that helped very much as well. I want to say thank you to Kathy Tate and Paul Smith, you heard, Murph, Charles Assa, and Bob DiNardo. Now, Bob, as you know, he's heading up the Mesa organization, and he was there to make sure I was in the right place at the right time, and this whole thing was really his idea. So thank you, Bob. Some of the volunteers that came out, Paul Smith and Melissa Tanzi. Melissa Tanzi's with the Mommy Club. She helped me mark the trail the day before with Paul. Stacy Hammer, you know her as a past president of this club. I asked her to help with registrations, and she went so far above and beyond. Not only did she stay all day to help, but she followed up with each winner individually with the raffle. Rachel Gagnon, Dean Neese, and Jason Trame all were there as well. Jeffrey Hassan, he came through with a water station that he set up in front of the Renaissance Hotel. And he even suited up an employee or two with a bike to ride, and they came and made a donation. I really have so many people that I need to thank, but I know I'm out of time here today. Fred Lefevre got me on his AM radio station. Jute Mode gave us some great T-shirts. Whitney Rothkar with Thread Marketing helped us do some of the marketing for it. Handlebar Toledo donated some of the handlebars. Dave Lagendorfer donated 20 Little Caesars pizzas. Doug Schmucker donated 8 pies. Toledo Bikes was there. They're a nonprofit they do bike repair and education. They were there to help repair bikes in the morning. There were so many donators of raffle items. Shane Marie Ray donated Mud Hens tickets in a first pitch. John Lehman donated some Mud Hens tickets. You saw the list. I can't go through them all right now. I got to say thank you to Saidan. Thank you, Shireen. And so many more. In closing, what I really want to say is that I want even more help next year. And I know that's a big ask. Please come see me if you want to help get involved. We've got the frame set up, the Toledo bonus, to really make this a great success in the future. I need somebody to help me with corporate sponsors to really move the needle to get some more dollars moving next year. Like I said, so we've also been discussing possibly doing this on a Saturday or a Friday in the future as well to get even more people involved. So in closing, I hope to see you all at Toledo Bonus 2019 and to help make this international service project a huge success moving forward. Thank you very much.
So if you were out there, a great time was had by all. If you weren't out there, you certainly have another opportunity next year. And so, Mike, I know you put a lot into it and really appreciate everything that you did. It was really, really a fun day. And you certainly couldn't beat the Schmucker's pies. Come on, that was pretty good. At this time, I'm going to invite John Davies to come up and introduce our speakers today.
Truly an honor to be able to introduce people who are devoting their life to the help those who are less fortunate than they. Judy Leb is a Rotarian and the director of Lucas County CASA, which is the court-appointed special advocates, a department of the Lucas County Juvenile Court, which trains adult volunteers to advocate for the best interests of our community's abused and neglected children. Demecia M is administrator of juvenile probation and assessment center services at the Lucas County Juvenile Court, has dedicated the last 23 years to serving youth and families. Demecia and her team continues to lead the charge in probation transformation and reform in Lucas County. Her commitment to juvenile justice and reform is what motivates her, but her dedication to helping to improve the lives of youth and families is what strengthens her to do this work on a daily basis.
The floor is going like this. Can you hear that? Yes. Okay, I'll try and be still. It's hard for me. A few years ago, I was in Washington, D.C. I was attending the National CASA Conference. And I was seated at a round table, like you're seated, of 8 to 10 people. Everyone went around the table and introduced themselves and said where they were from. And when I said that I was from Lucas County, Ohio, 2 people on opposite ends of the table lit up and said, "Oh my God." One of them said, "What is it like to work for such a phenomenal court?" I have to admit that I was a little taken aback. I didn't answer the question. I asked, "Why do you think we're so phenomenal?" They knew that the Lucas County Juvenile Court was one of only 5 courts nationwide that was awarded the prestigious JDAI, Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative's Deep End Grant. They knew that Lucas County was only one of 2 courts nationwide that had been awarded the coveted Probation Transformation Grant. So for years now, I have felt really uneasy with the idea that the Lucas County Juvenile Court is known across the country and is recognized as a leader among juvenile courts, but those of us who live here are mostly in the dark. So that's why I'm here today. I think that because our judges and court administrators are the true public servants, they're too humble to hoot their own horns. Demecia and I are here to do it for them. I believe that the court's outstanding national reputation is due to many years of extraordinary vision and leadership, and the courage of the court's leaders to try new approaches. In the past few years, the court has hired 2 data specialists, evidence of the court's commitment to implementing data-driven, evidence-based practices, a familiar mantra at the court. I'm going to give you just a few examples of our juvenile court's renowned success, and then Demecia is going to explain the creative approaches the court has used to successfully reduce incarceration and reduce recidivism rates in Lucas County. The Lucas County Juvenile Court was nationally lauded by the Annie E. Casey Foundation and the National Collaboration for Youth in January of 2017 for its juvenile justice reform work. On February 17, 2017, Lucas County's Judge Denise Navarre-Cubbin was honored to testify before the National Subcommittee on Early Childhood, Elementary, and Secondary Education, a hearing on providing vulnerable youth the hope of a brighter future through juvenile justice reform. On April 6th of this year, HBO released Raised in the System, an inspiring documentary about juvenile justice reform. About a third of the film featured Judge Cubbin and the Lucas County Juvenile Court's juvenile justice reforms, which are improving the lives of people who become involved in the system while reducing recidivism rates. In addition to juvenile justice reform, the Lucas County Juvenile Court is well known for its creative and groundbreaking work in mediation. And I'm just going to give you one example, but truly there are many examples of this extraordinary work. So the example I want to tell you about is the Truancy Prevention Through Mediation program. Truancy has been clearly identified as one of the early warning signs of students headed for potential delinquent activity, social isolation, or educational failure via suspension, expulsion, or just plain dropping out of school. In Ohio, 120 school districts currently use the Truancy Prevention Through Mediation program model, or a similar variation that was originally developed right here at the Lucas County Juvenile Court to increase student attendance and performance. Truancy dropped by a whopping 21% across the state. In partnership with the Toledo Public Schools and the Lucas County Children's Services, we have a Pathways to Educational Success initiative. It effectively addresses the negative educational outcomes of foster youth and the associated problems of school instability, of transportation barriers, and also inadequate trauma training among professionals. Judge Connie Zemmelman has been actively involved with the efforts to address human trafficking and has spoken at national conferences on the court's important work in this area. She has been a leader in the implementation of the Human Trafficking Safe Harbor Act, which offers protection and assistance to children who have been exploited for labor or sex. And the Lucas County Juvenile Detention Center is also a recognized national leader, a winner of the Award of Excellence by the National Partnership for Juvenile Services. Both the Detention Center and the Youth Treatment Center have earned 100% on their annual audits by the Ohio Department of Youth Services and the American Correction Association, respectively. A 100% score the first time and not after implementing corrective action is a rare occurrence. Both of these facilities have repeatedly earned the impressive perfect scores. The Lucas County Juvenile Court's Healthy Baby Court is a specialized court to protect babies and to support and empower young women as mothers and as productive members of our community. The mission of the Healthy Baby Court is to reunify mothers with their babies as quickly as possible by providing extra resources and wraparound services for these very young mothers. The Healthy Baby Court was established by Judge Cubbin in the fall of 2016, and it is the first of its kind in Ohio. Already, other Ohio juvenile courts have inquired or visited us here in Lucas County to learn how to duplicate the Healthy Baby Courts in their communities. And these are just a few of the court's innovative successes. I heard you talk about the bike program, and we partner with them so that our probation youth have constructive things to do, repairing bicycles. And now Demecia is going to tell you the details of the court's nationally lauded juvenile justice reform work.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Judy, for the invitation to be here. As a pillar in the community, the Lucas County Juvenile Court works hard to assure that we are doing what is in the best interest of children and families that come to us. We maintain in the deepest regard our commitment to the care, protection, treatment, and guidance of children and families that are in our care. So, you may be asking yourself, why are you here, Demecia? What is this all about? Well, I'm glad you asked. As Judy stated, our court has received quite a bit of recognition within the last years. We all know that with recognition of this kind comes responsibility and accountability. I can't tell you about everything that we're doing at the juvenile court, but I want to highlight a few things that you may not know about. For nearly a decade, the juvenile court has strived to provide lower incarceration rates for youth and become more sensitive to the issue of disproportionate minority youth contact. Through multiple initiatives, along with the leadership of Judge Denise Navarre-Cubbin, our court has become a leader in the state, as Judy just talked about. Since 2010, the juvenile court has achieved record low incarceration rates. We have been able to divert more kids away from secured detention and into the community with the proper programming and resources without compromising community safety. So why is this happening and how are we able to do this? Glad you asked that question also. In previous years, youth who were arrested and detained were all housed together in one facility. And I'm sure many of you may remember the CSI, or the Child Study Institute. This included low, moderate, and high-risk youth. We were presented with the issue of excessive numbers, exposure to more delinquent behaviors, and the risk of doing more harm. The processes and procedures at that time had become ineffective. Research has shown that incarceration is an often harmful and ineffective method of addressing delinquent behavior. The Center of Juvenile Justice Reform and Justice Center Council of State Government recently published an article entitled Transforming Juvenile Justice Systems to Improve Public Safety and Youth Outcomes. In this publication, Kendra Keck, who is our assistant court administrator, wrote that we have become too reliant on detention as a consequence. The ultimate outcome was not rehabilitation, but the increase of recidivism. She went on to say that our efforts to reevaluate how we were doing things were founded on the My Child test. Would we want our own children to be treated in the same way that we are treating youth who come into contact with our juvenile justice system? She said this guiding question, along with a commitment to restorative justice, positive youth development, and addressing the criminogenic needs of youth under our supervision, challenged us to rethink how we could accomplish our mission to maintain public safety, while caring for, protecting, treating, and guiding those who come before the court. So what did we do? I know you're thinking that. In 2000, we began our detention reform work in an effort to reduce the overcrowding in our facility. 10 years later, in 2010, as Judy stated, our court was one of 5 sites in Ohio to become an official Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative site and began working with the CASA Foundation as well as the Ohio Department of Youth Services to accurately identify youth that really need to be confined to minimize the risk to the community. 2 years later, in 2012, our court agreed to pilot the Deep End Initiative with the CASA Foundation to take a look at probation, the probation practices, and its purpose, and to safely and significantly reduce out-of-home placements, especially for youth of color. As a result, we were awarded this grant to accomplish these goals. A year later, in 2013, we opened our assessment center. This non-secure processing center screens low-risk, non-violent offenders at the point of arrest to link them to appropriate services and to ultimately keep them from further penetrating the juvenile justice system. And since its opening, the assessment center staff has administered more than 4,000 screenings of youth who were arrested for a nonviolent misdemeanor offense or a status offense. For the last 2 years, the assessment center has had more events than the detention center has had bookings, which is a huge accomplishment. In 2016, we launched misdemeanor services. This is a very creative and unique thing that we have done in our community. This approach allows youth who are adjudicated on a misdemeanor offense to be screened and linked to the appropriate services within the community. Youth are provided with short-term supervision by trained staff in lieu of being placed on formal probation. Misdemeanor services provides a light touch to kids and families, linking them to more appropriate resources that will meet their immediate needs. Over 200 youth thus far have been served through the process of misdemeanor services. In the same year, the assessment center, along with misdemeanor services, diverted 317 young people from probation. The top 5 referring offenses to the assessment center and to misdemeanor services are unruly, safe school ordinance offense, obstructing official business, petty theft, and domestic violence or family violence. Also, in the same year, we began our Family Navigator process. In alliance with the Center for Hope, a local nonprofit agency, we now offer parents supportive services, guidance, and direction as they navigate through the juvenile justice system. The probation department has been able to sharpen its focus to serve high-risk, high-need offenders within the community. With a plethora of training coupled with community-based programming and services, staff are able to provide supervision to youth in a more structured way. And in order to do all of this work, we had to do a few things on our part. We had to reorganize, restructure, and redesign. We moved a few staff around. We created new roles and responsibilities. We developed new processes and procedures. We had to change some titles, all without having any new money to do this. We created a reform work plan. We designed a continuum of care, and we produced a structured decision-making matrix to help us guide our decisions. All of this so that we can provide the right service at the right time for the right kid. Now, I know what you're saying. Demecia, yeah. Why is this information important to me? I'm glad you asked. Diverting low and moderate risk nonviolent youth from detention to community-based services and programming allows us to decrease our detention population. Since 2000, detention's bookings have decreased 77%, from 5,215 bookings to 1,180 in 2016. Of this number, of the 1,180, 912 kids were admitted to the detention center. The average daily population in detention has decreased from 42 in 2012 to 27 in 2016. The average length of stay in detention for one kid is 9 days. Now let's put this in perspective. The Juvenile Detention Center's total budget in 2016 was $3,520,844.84. The total cost to admit one youth into the detention center is $3,860.58. The total cost to operate all of this for one day, just one day, is $9,646.15. Overall, total cost to hold one youth in detention for 9 days is approximately $86,815.35. One more point. The cost to attend the University of Toledo for one semester, with room and board included, is $10,614.50. Prepare a child for college, hold in secure detention. Prepare for college, hold in secure detention. I'll just let you marinate on that. So I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand for this, but I can only imagine how many of you here may have smoked a little marijuana but did not inhale, got into a fight at school, or maybe broke curfew, or even paid a little visit to our old CSI building. I don't want you to tell on yourself. Don't raise your hand. Don't tell your business. But just imagine the impact of the decisions that we made as children could have changed the outcome of our life today. By safely keeping youth who appear before our court on nonviolent offenses within the community, we are essentially saving money. We have not done this work alone. Our community partners work tirelessly with us to provide youth and families with services. We had created an executive team with the chief of police from Toledo, the chief of police from Oregon, superintendent of our public school system, our juvenile prosecutor, our juvenile public defender. We have a representative from Job and Family Services, a representative from Mental Health and Recovery Services, just to name a few. All of these people within our community make up our executive team. And our executive team help us with our work and partner with us through this process to help us make informed decisions for kids. Our Youth Advocate Program provides mentoring for our court-involved youth. We have restorative justice circles to provide appropriate services to kids and families when needed. We partner with the Junction Coalition. We have a contract with the Toledo Museum of Art. We work with Toledo Bikes, as stated already. We have a boat program. We partner with East Toledo Family Center. We want to make sure that we are bringing the right people together so that this work that we do can be effective. A couple more highlights that Judy did not mention is we were highlighted in the Christian Science Monitor article. The Casey Foundation has created a white paper in which they highlight Lucas County Juvenile Court and the work that we're doing in our probation transformation. Our former court administrator, Deborah Hodges, received our Distinguished Systems Leadership Award by the Casey Foundation. We are currently working with the W. Hayward Burns Institute to take a look at race, equity, and inclusion. Our own Judge Cubbin received the YWCA Milestone Award, and Judge Zimmerman received the Distinguished Toledo's Award. Now, I'm about out of time, but I could go on for another hour, and I know you guys don't want that. So I invite you to go to our website and take a look at all the things that we are doing at the Lucas County Juvenile Court. Like Judy said, we don't like to toot our own horn, but it is important work that we're doing, and we just like to keep it moving. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Feel free to contact me whenever you're available, or stop me before you leave, and I can give you my card. Thank you.
Certainly, we have time for a few questions. If anybody's got some questions, could you bring them to the microphone? If not, I'm sure the ladies would be happy to answer questions right after the meeting. Any questions? No. Well, thank you so much for all the wonderful work that you are doing. Obviously, you did a great presentation because I didn't have any questions for you today. But great things to think about. Certainly an honor to have you up here today. And as a thank you, we'll be making a donation to the Polio Plus Foundation in your name on behalf of our club. And we'd also like to present you each with this book being underwritten by one of our Rotarians, and this was written by one of our Rotarians. So enjoy. Okay, so next week we have another one of our own Rotarians, Ford Bennett's going to be with us next week, and he's going to be talking to us about the honor that he had to serve in our Armed Forces Division of the Marines. So we certainly look forward to his discussion about deployment and tour of duty. We do have one meeting after today, and that is the new member committee meeting, which is going to meet in the Presque Isle room. And we're also happy to welcome Chuck back. Chuck's Chuckles back with us today.
Before I begin, Kathy, I wanted you to know that you and I are very similar in the fact that I'm also a vegetarian. But I do eat fish, and I, like you, I do eat chicken, and I like an occasional steak once in a while. Mostly pork when it's cooked in a Chinese food, but there is that ham thing around Easter time. And sausage. I don't eat sausage. And the duck blood sausage. That's the part I don't eat. I'd never touch that with a tongue.
Janina.
Yeah. Here are a few limericks. A young psychic, you have to follow me on this first one. A young psychic midget named Marge went to jail with a most heinous charge, but despite lock and key, the next day she broke free, and the headline said, small, medium, at large.
That one you have to think about.
Yeah.
Think about it.
You'll get that later. A forgetful old gas man named Dieter, who went poking around his gas heater, touched a leak with his light, he blew out of sight, And as everyone knows anything about poetry can tell you, he also ruined the meter. There was an enchanting young bride who ate many apples and died. The apples fermented inside the lamented and made cider inside her inside.
Oh, dear.
Finally.
Okay.
A little warm in
Yeah, loosen your tie on that one, Chuck.
A swimmer whose clothing got strewed by breezes that left her quite nude saw a man come along, and unless I am wrong, you expected this line to be lewd.
Chuck, glad to have you back. That's the end of our meeting, and I encourage you all to go make a difference in somebody's life today. We are adjourned.